Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well today and you are ready for today's program because you may have guessed it. It is Friday and that can only mean one thing. It can mean a lot of things, but it also means that Ralph Bond's going to be here. He is our science and tech trends correspondent for us here at Computer America, and that means we have an amazing show planned for you. So sit back and relax as we get into this. So before we get started with Ralph, though, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, archives, and of course, at the top there, we even have a section wholly dedicated to Ralph and his endeavors here on our program, where we cover a variety of topics that you probably haven't heard of. So we'll get more into that here in just a moment. But before we do that, find us on social media at Computer America, wherever you happen to be social, and of course wherever you find podcasts, Computer America should pop right up. So we appreciate for you listening, and we appreciate that you spend your time here with us. So with that being said, let's go ahead, bring in Ralph, and hey, get the show started. So once again, he has become our science and tech trends correspondent, and we cover a variety of topics, and of course he brings us news stories that you probably haven't heard of that are, well, here's the key part, on the uplifting side. So Ralph, welcome back to Computer America. How you been?
I'm doing okay, and what a tragic week in Texas. There's so much in the world that's going so wrong, but what we're going to do here, and what Ben and I do each Friday, is highlight 4 recent articles that show us key trends and developments in artificial intelligence, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, agricultural tech, space research, physics, you name it, all across the board. But here's the deal: after this tragic week, the most important thing we're going to do for you is give you an oasis of positive news, uplifting news, thanks to the world of science and technology.
Absolutely. And I think a good place to start with that will, of course, be this first one that is definitely a trend. I think a lot of people are really excited. And Ralph, just in my casual, being online and reading the publications that I read and just, being on social media that I do, there's a lot of, I don't want to say like renewed, but like, it seems like nuclear energy kind of came about in the, 60s, 70s and 80s, and then fell out of favor in like the 90s and early 2000s, thanks to some high profile, Fukushima, Chernobyl, stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. They even made a wonderful show about it. Go check that out. But there is a renewed interest in nuclear, but more to the story that we're going to start with on story number 1, nuclear doesn't have to mean, that giant building that Homer Simpson used to work at. Right. No, there's a lot of different variety coming in the world of nuclear energy. So Ralph, story number 1.
Yeah, you're right. It's a big, big trend. And Ben, you've captured it correctly. The trend to watch now, and Bill Gates has put his money where his mouth is on this one, small, portable in some cases, but small reactors. That's the key. And this first story comes from The Cool Down, which is a news outlet that's part of MSN. And the headline here is: university researchers develop a revolutionary closet-sized nuclear reactor. And the subhead is something no other university has. So let's get into this story. This is really cool. Researchers at Purdue University have developed a groundbreaking closet-sized nuclear reactor called PUR-1, which stands for Purdue University Reactor Number 1, that could reshape the future of clean energy. And here are some key takeaways. So this is really interesting, yet lots of people are developing small portable reactors, but they've come up with a control system for this that's very, very interesting. Check this out. So Purdue University's reactor number 1 is the first U.S. reactor licensed to operate with fully digital controls, and this will become clear in just a moment. It uses a real-time artificial intelligence-powered digital twin that predicts reactor performance with 99% accuracy, helping optimize safety and efficiency. So, Ben, you have the physical reactor, and then you have a virtual digital twin for control. It's an astonishing take on this whole mini reactor world. It's fun. It's really cool.
I'm guessing that they will explore this more further in the article, but
right,
making a fully digital twin, that seems like something that when they made nuclear reactors decades ago wasn't even possible. But
no,
computers have just reached that point. That's a really innovative way to kind of interface with it. That's cool.
Yeah. And it's another great example of a trend you and I've seen so many times before. Most of the popular media gets onto the negative part of AI. Here again is an example of how artificial intelligence is creating quote unquote digital twins for a reactor to ensure, to help better optimize safety and efficiency. So going on with the story, the reactor also serves as a test bed for quantum encrypted communications and real-time AI threat detection, bolstering cyber safety and security for future systems. So that's a side note as to what it might be used for. So this research supports the development that you and I have been talking about for many months now of small modular reactors, which could provide clean, autonomous energy to remote areas and disaster zones. Think about Texas. Maybe their power is wiped out now due to that terrible flooding. If you could bring in one or more of these reactors and get the grid back up and running, how great would that be? Very cool. So Purdue is building a second digital twin and a full-scale control room to advance testing and remote reactor management capabilities. And projects like Purdue University Reactor Number 1 aim to make nuclear power safer, cheaper, and more accessible while reducing our dependence on polluting energy sources. And so I do want to take a side note here. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no. Just wanted to just marvel at how far universities and how important and really innovative they are, Ralph, because when I think about universities, sometimes I think, this new chemical reaction and we're pursuing this, and they're mixing things in vent hoods, and they still do that kind of thing. But Purdue has a full-blown nuclear lab, nuclear power facility right there. If you're watching the video portion, you can see a number of students there all kind of monitoring this thing. Ralph, I am blown away that this is in a university setting, not not in a different setting. So just amazing.
And you'll hear the scraping on the floor as I bring out my soapbox, stand on it, and shout to the world, for the love of God, please do not defund these kinds of research programs. They're going to help us and the world make it in the future. But if we pull the rug underneath these things, but that's negative. We don't want to be negative. Let's go on and be positive. So in the world, in the show notes, and by the way, folks, it's so important to come out to computeramerica.com, especially if you're listening to us as a podcast, and get the show notes, because I insert side notes, I insert links, I augment the articles with additional information. And in this case, I inserted a reminder, and we covered this a few shows back, that there are many, many efforts worldwide to develop these small portable reactors. And in the show notes, I have a reminder, there's companies like NuScale, Holtec International, GE Hitachi, that's a big one, Westinghouse Electric, another big one, Terra Power, X Energy, Oklo, Kairos Power, and Rolls-Royce SMR, all working like crazy to develop and bring to market these small reactors. So that's something to keep in mind as we wrap up this first story.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not just one company, because Ralph, I think it's the wonderful blend of new advanced technology that makes this possible, and then I hate to say it, but the marketability of it. It's something that whichever company kind of really figures it out and sells something that people can then buy, that is going to make them a lot of money. So, sometimes, hey, capitalism works very well. And if they can make a lot of money off this by making a well-designed, portable, efficient, useful product, then, hey, the market will take it from there. And I think
There you go.
all of these companies see the potential. So,
Yeah.
Ralph, great story number one. Actually, very, very interesting. And again, a trend. So there's story number one. And story number two, we're going to go ahead and hop on down to and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if by the time that you hear this, over at computeramerica.com, we'll have the show notes available so you can follow along, or if you're busy, if you're driving, if you're listening to us on the go and you want to check something out further, then hey, we'll have it up at Computer America for you. But story number two, scientists design a novel battery that runs on atomic waste. So hey, Ralph, you make a bunch of portable nuclear power plants, suddenly you have a bunch of waste to deal with. So story number two follows story number one nicely.
It's a great example of symbiotic technology. It's just very cool. And it's another example of where our educational institutions are doing such great things. And of course, across the world, many educational institutions are contributing. But the headline here is Scientists Design Novel Battery that runs on atomic waste. And this comes from Ohio State, their newsroom. This is such a fun story and another great example of how our educational institutions are pushing things forward in a positive way. So researchers at Ohio State University have developed a prototype battery that harnesses radiation from nuclear waste to generate electricity. Okay. The device uses scintillators, materials that emit light when exposed to radiation, paired with solar cells to convert gamma radiation into usable power. And what I do in the show notes, reading these articles, the people for whom these articles are aimed, the assumption is, what all this means. And I went, scintillators? Wait a minute, what's that? Side note, scintillators are materials that light up literally when struck by ionizing radiation like X-rays, gamma rays, or high-energy particles. That flash of light is called scintillation, and it's the key to detecting and measuring radiation. That's what scintillators were all about. It's monitoring, measuring radiation, but these great researchers at Ohio State have figured out how to turn this into energy. Pretty cool, huh, Ben?
Yeah, no, it's and just I had to go out and kind of see what these things look like, and
right.
And if you're watching the video portion, there's kind of this is what Wikipedia has. Reminds me, and I know it's not the same mechanism, but Ralph, there was like the radon infused glass that they used to make, and they used to make like China,
yes.
And it would like glow green. It's almost the same effect where it's just lightly emitting, and they have other like blues and greens, but spooky. But I'm curious about the efficiency of it, because it doesn't seem like that bright of a glow, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and you're actually right ahead of the game, because we're going to find out this can create energy, but it's very modest at this point, but they have an idea for scaling it up. So going on, some key highlights now about this research. The battery was tested with two radioactive sources, cesium-137 and cobalt-60, both byproducts of nuclear fission. And with cesium-137, it produced 288 nanowatts. With cobalt-60, it reached 1.5 microwatts, enough to power tiny sensors. So a little reality check. We're not talking about running whole cities. Far from it. That's right. So keep that in mind. Though small in output, as the article points out, the concept shows promise for scaling up to watt-level applications. And this is a good example of how many of our stories, Ben, as we often tell the audience, are bleeding edge, early research. They've been able to pull this off, but it's very, very modest amount of energy at this time, but they believe they can scale it up. And that's the key to keep in mind. And another reality check that was outlined in the article, this technology is designed for use near radioactive environments like nuclear waste storage or deep space missions. Wow, that's interesting. And not for public use. So this has a very specific targeted application in mind. And importantly, the battery itself contains no radioactive material. making it safe to handle. And as a lead researcher, Raymond Chow, put it, the team is, quote, trying to turn waste into treasure.
That is, I think, a key takeaway from this. If you're looking for a trend and it's just something that is waste, something that is useless, or would have to be disposed of, turning that into power. The only thing I can think of, Ralph, that might make this, a stranger, better application. I am curious about like the longevity of it, because radioactivity, sticks around for a little bit. That's kind of one of the problems. I'm wondering if you can make a battery that lasts, a decent amount of time to run very low powered sensors. I don't know. I'm sure someone will come up with an application for this. It's it's an interesting route of research. So there you go.
Exactly. Yeah, Ben, it's a good example of proof of concept, early twinkle in the eye research with an idea that they can scale it up. This could be 10, 20 years out before it may be a viable energy producing source. But the idea is very interesting.
Yes. That's kind of the point of university is, you have, hundreds of grad student projects, and hey, maybe only some of them see the light of day, but that's okay. They're all important. Even bad results are good results. So there you go.
Yep.
So there you go. Story number 2, story number 3. And let's go ahead and talk about, smashing some records. And this one is, being used to make popcorn, and we'll get to exactly what, where, and when. But this is very cool. It's, Ralph, it seems like your theme today is power and electricity. I'm picking up on that. Let's talk about how to get power when you're, maybe 5 miles away from the nearest outlet. Oh.
Yep.
Ralph, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, no, you're good. So I was saying, what do you do when you're 5 miles away from your nearest outlet?
Yeah.
Let's go story number 3.
You got it. This one's from livescience.com is the source. Headline, DARPA smashes wireless power record, beaming energy more than 5 miles away, and the subhead here, and uses it to make popcorn. We'll find out what that's all about. This is actually really cool. If you have the show notes, pay particular attention to the second image in the show notes, and we'll explain in a moment. So here we go. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, we all know it by the acronym DARPA, has shattered previous records in wireless power transmission by successfully beaming over 800 watts of laser energy across 5.3 miles or 8.6 kilometers for the rest of the world, enough to pop popcorn at the receiving end.
Impressive.
The feat was part of DARPA's Persistent Optical Wireless Energy Relay, or POWER program, which aims to deliver energy instantly to remote or hard-to-reach locations. So that's the motivation. The test, conducted at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico, used a laser to transmit power with about 20% efficiency, and the beam passed through a compact aperture, bounced off a parabolic mirror, and hit solar cells that converted it into usable electricity. So that's how you get the electricity. So you can beam this laser beam, it hits this compact aperture, bounces off a parabolic mirror, hits the solar cells, that creates the energy. So that's the equation.
Yeah. So essentially that scene from I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Indiana Jones is kind of bouncing, like in the old tomb, and he's bouncing the sunlight throughout the treasures. Essentially that. There's a series of mirrors, and eventually lands and lights everything up. So yeah.
And then going back to the second image in the show notes, what DARPA does here with this artist's conception is showing a laser beam on the ground shooting up to a drone. And the drone is relaying that laser beam and sending it to another drone off in the distance, let's say 5 miles away. And that drone in turn is sending that laser beam down to the ground, to the source, where it's going through that aperture, parabolic mirror, and then hitting the solar cells and creating the energy. So that's what's so great about that illustration. Check it out, folks, when you come out to computeramerica.com. So let's go on with some of the key takeaways about this system. The system called PRAD, P-R-A-D, Power Receiver Array Demo, everything has to be an acronym, obliterated previous benchmarks, such as a previous team milestone of 230 watts over 1 mile. So before this, it was 230 watts over a mile. Now we're 5.3 miles. And what was it? 800 something watts of power. Pretty big step forward. This technology could one day power unmanned aerial vehicles or deliver energy to disaster zones and battlefields without fuel convoys. And boy, with what's going on in Texas, the whole idea of disaster zones is fresh in our minds this week.
Yep.
And then
it's interesting, and I guess this would supplement or be much more kind of on demand versus like solar panels. But yeah, I mean the jump even from, I don't know when that last record was set, but the jump is, fourfold. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. And then the bit about popcorn. The popcorn stunt. Remember, they transmitted this energy, got to the solar cells. The solar cells created enough electricity to run a microwave to pop the popcorn. Okay, what's this all about? The popcorn stunt was a nod to the 1985 film Real Genius, where a laser is used to popcorn in a prank. And DARPA's way of saying, as the article points out, yes, we're serious, but we're also having fun. So that was great. And then the article also notes at the end, and it assumes you know what it's referring to, that Nikola Tesla would have been proud of this. And in the show notes, I've inserted a nice history of Nikola Tesla and his dream of transmitting electricity wirelessly through the air. He proposed this in the 1890s with public announcements and articles that appeared around 1898. That's something to really think about. We all think Tesla, we think about the automobile. No. Nikola Tesla was a fascinating character. If you're not familiar with him, check it out. In the show notes, though, I have a whole outline that I got from Copilot AI Research explaining his vision for wireless energy transmission. You can geek out on that if you so desire. It's really, really fun and really interesting. But this is interesting stuff, transmitting power through the air.
Yep, it's kind of goes hand in hand with another article that I think came out this week that I believe it was, I want to say Japan set a new record for transmitting data using lasers, and it reached like a petabyte, something like that. So, transferring data with lasers, transferring energy with lasers.
Yep.
A very robust field. If you are in the laser manufacturing business, you must be a happy camper. So there you go. Story number 3. So story number 4, as is tradition, we're going to talk a little bit about what a doctor is doing. So this is how doctors date on the internet. This is amazing. No, doctor performs prostate exam, and the headline is much more technological than just doctor does prostate exam. This one is very cool. So Ralph, story number 4.
Yeah, and again, as Ben was alluding to, we typically end each show with something in the world of medical science and technology advancements, and this one's really, really interesting. This comes from an outlet called theengineer.co.uk. So this is coming out of the United Kingdom, the source of the article, that is, but it's about something in the United States. So the headline here is U.S. doctor performs prostate telesurgery on a patient in Africa. Wow. I mean, this is such a great example of a really growing trend for remote surgery made possible by technology and robotics and communications and on and on and on. It just is such a great, great promising thing to help serve remote areas, underserved areas. And as we go into the future, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No, you're absolutely right. Going into the future, we definitely need more doctors and more access to healthcare.
Yes.
I was just reading about, I believe it was a BBC article, and they did a really fascinating story about this doctor, and I felt so bad for her because she works out of a remote village city in Australia. And we think Australia, it's not the most underdeveloped place. Australia, you think of it as, very much first world. But
Right,
Ralph,
right.
they had one doctor serving, I think it was like 4,000 residents of this one city.
Yeah.
And she was on call 24 hours a day,
Oh
7 days a
God.
week for, I think she did it for like 13 years or something like that.
Wow.
And she was the only doctor, and sometimes they would have traveling surgeons and traveling doctors that would make it there every now and again. But she quit and she felt bad, and they did not get another doctor there. And yeah, after like 2 years, they actually asked her to come back again because they could not find anyone to live in remote Australia to
Yeah.
do these things, to do checkups, to do surgeries, to be a doctor. So, this isn't, and I'm sure we're going to talk, this about Angola and Africa and the US, but
Yeah.
this is all over the world. We need doctors in so many places that we just don't have them.
Exactly. Exactly. And this story is a perfect example of how medical science and technology is helping to address that problem with some really clever solutions. So, going into the article here, it says, in a groundbreaking medical first, Dr. Vipul Patel in Florida, so the doctors in Florida, remotely performed prostate surgery on a patient in Angola, 11,000 kilometers away. That's 7,000 miles approximately, using robotic telesurgery. And in the images in the show notes shows the doctor there working with the robotic machine in question. The June 14, 2025 procedure marked the first human clinical trial approved by the US FDA to test transcontinental robotic surgery. Wow, what a feat. And a little side note here, the prostatectomy or prostate surgery is a surgical procedure to remove part or all of the prostate gland, which is a small organ in the male reproductive system located just below the bladder and surrounding the urethra. And so that's a little side note. I think most of us know what that's all about. And then in the show notes, I insert some additional information if you're a medical geek and want to learn more about prostate surgery. But the operation used a Chinese robotic platform called Medbot, MEDBOT, connected via a high-speed fiber optic line routed through Brazil. I'd love to know why Brazil, but anyway, that's cool. And the setup kept latency to just 140 milliseconds, which is imperceptible to the human brain, meaning you don't feel that there's any lag at all. You move, it moves. You can't respond to that 140 milliseconds. It's so fast, allowing Dr. Patel to operate with precision from across the globe. And more in the kind of wrapping things up here, this milestone could revolutionize access to surgical care in underserved regions and rural areas, as we've been talking about, offering new possibilities for remote interventions and emergency support. And as Dr. Patel put it, and I think he's kind of paraphrasing the one step for a man, giant leap for mankind, Moon's quote that we all know so well, right? He says it was a small step for a surgeon, but a huge leap for healthcare. Amen.
Absolutely. No, it's amazing how far, this all came. And the fact that, using tools from all over the world, using doctors and, to help patients all over the world, there's a lot to love about this story. And just real quick to your notes, ladies and gentlemen, if you are at all interested, there's maps showing all the undersea cables that exist in the world. Great. And Ralph was wondering why Florida to Brazil to Angola and these undersea cables, because Ralph, Europe is not connected to America by like satellites or something. Nope. It's just essentially, when you lay a cable across your bedroom floor because you're too lazy, same thing, except the bedroom floor is the ocean floor. And it looks like for Angola, which is this lovely little country down here, the only cables that even get close to Angola do come from Brazil. So
okay, great, Ben. That's wonderful. There you go.
Just
mystery
more direct
solved.
Routes. Mystery solved. But hey, the mystery of would you let this happen to you, Ralph? That is a mystery we have not solved yet. So
I probably would. I mean, if you understand the accuracy and the ability of these systems and the surgeon's expertise, so the human's not cut out of this equation. They're just able to kind of remotely transfer every one of their arm movements and hand movements and so forth remotely, thousands and thousands of miles. It just
yeah, no, it's It's really amazing. And then on top of that, and I know they didn't mention AI in particular, but we have seen a similar one to this. I don't know if it was like 2 weeks ago or something along those lines that used AI to really take out the human shakiness and, the minute, kind of variations in human movement, and hey, can help make something like this happen even better.
Right.
So really, really good stuff. Love to see that, and great stuff from, all 4 stories. So if you are following along with the stories, though, you may notice, hey, Ben, there's more stories. That's okay. That's for you. Ralph picks those by hand just to prove that he can't just come up with like 4 stories and like, that's all the good news. All the good news is all gone. It's only 4 stories, Ben. I got nothing else. No, we try to keep it succinct, cut down just for easy listening. And then, of course, if you'd like to go to the show notes, other stories that Ralph has found that definitely deserve your attention, but we just don't have time to cover them here on the program. You can go to the website, computeramerica.com, pick it up there at the bottom of the show notes, but we will at least give you the headlines so that if you want to check it out yourself, you can go and find it yourself. So, Ralph, with that, let's do the headlines.
Yeah, we've got 4 what we call honorable mentions. And by the way, referring to what Ben's talking about, right now in my list of potential articles to cover, there's probably 40 things that are floating around in my galaxy, and every day more and more. So it's kind of a painful process in some respects to say, what are we going to highlight and what are we going to even do as honorable mentions? So there's a lot going on out there. But anyway, with that said, our first honorable mention, we're going to do 4, comes from MIT, good old MIT. And the headline here is a new technology for extending the shelf life of produce. Subhead, researchers used microneedles to inject fresh cut crops with melatonin to delay spoilage. And spoiled produce is a terrible waste. And if we can extend the shelf life, it has huge implications. So it's a very cool story. Check that out.
It's not people's fault. You buy the head of lettuce at the store, you get home, and about 23 minutes go by, and then it's brown. Extending shelf life, great, perfect. So story number, first honorable mention, yes.
Yeah, and the next honorable mention reminds me of a story we did several weeks back where they were taking human stem cells from a particular patient and growing teeth replacements. So there's a lot of great technology going on and research in the area of dental. And this one comes from medicalexpress.com. In this case, it says smart dental implants developed that feel and function like natural teeth. So it's not quite the same as the stem cell story, but also a great example of research and exciting work going on in the area of dental stuff. So you think dentistry is boring? Think again. And our next one, techspot.com is a source. Again, another MIT story here. MIT researchers bond gallium nitride transistors to silicon for faster next generation wireless devices. Geek alert, very geeky, but very cool. Check it out. And our last honorable mention. This one's very freaky. Oh, you want to talk about technology in the world of military applications? This is just a big deal. The last story here is from ZME Science. Headline, France has a new laser rifle that can melt electronics from 500 meters away. Scary looking thing too at that.
Scary looking thing, definitely, but at the same time, not being able to stop technology could be just as scary as being able to stop it in its tracks. So with all the headlines that you can go elsewhere and find, a tool like this would come in a lot, would be very handy. So there you go.
Yes.
So, Ralph, with that being said, an amazing slew of stories today that you brought us. They're all really, really cool. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to read more about any of these, because once again, Ralph just kind of highlights what's there, there's still way more information. You can go to computeramerica.com. Once again, find the show notes. There's a Ralph Fun section right at the top, and you can find today's program. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the program. You'll catch us here next time. Ralph joins us every Friday to talk about 4 new amazing stories. And ladies and gentlemen, you can pretty much set your clock to it. So with that being said, everyone, we'll catch you here next time. Have a great day. Do something fun this weekend. Catch you next time. Bye, everyone.